Good evening, everyone. It is January 21st, 2021, and I would like to welcome everyone to this regular meeting of the Lansing School District Board of Education. Will everyone please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
the flag
of the United
of the
States
United States
of
of
America,
America,
and to the republic
Republic
which
which
stands
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and
liberty and
justice
justice for all.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Body,
Here.
Dr. Burrows,
Here.
Mrs. Hodgen,
On President Trump's watch.
Mrs. Lawrence,
Here.
White House at a briefing.
Mrs. Lilji.
Anthony Fauci compared the pandemic
I thought I saw her.
situations. He stressed that members of the Biden team are sticking
Mr. Lopez,
Present.
Mrs. Moore,
above 400.
Dr. Rodriguez,
Present.
Exactly.
Mrs. Willis,
Was confirmed in
Present.
quorum is present.
Mrs. Lilji is back on.
She is, okay, very good. Thank you.
Any additions to the agenda this evening?
Americans dying every single day.
Okay.
You heard about
Dr.
President
Rodriguez, I'm going to mute you. There you go. Seeing none, we will move on to public comment for this evening. We do have one public comment submission, and that is from Mr. Brian Hagler. Mr. Hagler, give me a second. I'm gonna allow you to talk. Okay, Mr. Hagler, can you say something so I can test your audio?
Good evening.
Yep, okay, you're with us. Mr. Hagler, you have 3 minutes, and customarily the board does not respond to public comment. Go ahead.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I'm Brian Hagler, father of a son in the special education program, currently attending Dwight Rich. My reason for addressing you this evening is the appearance by this board of not taking into account the approximately 2,000 students receiving special ed services in the district. Whenever a change is made that is not in the best interest of my child, the answer I received was the board made the decision and no exceptions are being made at this time. These unilateral changes do not take into account the variety of individual education plans and leads to violation of those plans. Additionally, the communication from the district in regards to what is happening with the special education program has been poor. Whenever district-wide info is released to parents, there is no mention of how this will impact the students receiving special education services. Additionally, there is little information that comes directly from the special education department in regards to these changes. Also, some things are nearly impossible virtually. My son was getting in-person physical and occupational therapy until the executive order at the end of November, even though there was nothing that precluded the district from offering these in-person services. He has received none of these services since. If learning labs can remain open during this time, there is little reason why some in-person services cannot be offered. In addition, my son has a visual impairment. I have asked numerous times for a large monitor for my son to see the screen since we went virtual last March. My son did not receive it until this past December. Finally, when the school schedule change was implemented with little notice and little flexibility at the beginning of the school year, it appeared the needs of special ed students were not taken into account. Before the change, I was able to do virtual learning with my son, who cannot operate a computer independently 2 hours every day. After that change, I could only work with him 45 minutes. In closing, I'm asking the board to increase direct communication between the special ed department, and the parents. And before making a decision that applies district-wide, please seek input on the potential impact to the students who are receiving special education services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hagler. Sorry that I mispronounced your name. Moving on to presentations this evening. We will start with our nurses report from Ms. Cordelia Black. Or
Good
Sam.
evening. Good evening. Oh, Sam, you can go. You want to go?
No, go right ahead, Cordelia. Go ahead with introductions.
All righty. Thank you. Tonight's health professionals update will be presented by our very own two school nurses, Mrs. Sue Wheeler and Mrs. Randy Crumble. Take it away. Have fun.
Thank you. I'm going to share the screen here with you. It's trying. There we go. Well, thank you for the opportunity to review the COVID metrics with you this evening. In December, we presented the metrics to you, and this will be our first opportunity to share with you. Across the nation, COVID continues to be an exceptional public health crisis. The United States has more than 24 million cases with 407,000 lives lost. COVID-19 continues to impact us as a nation in many aspects of physical health, mental health, housing, and economics. Several new variants of COVID have now been identified across the world, and as of last week, in Michigan as well, as near to us as Washtenaw County. This is the metrics dashboard that we shared with you last month, and we will present the data to you using these categories and metrics again. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to, my technology is glitching for me, so 1 second. We'll try that again. Randy, I'm in a dead zone here. I wonder if can you pull your screen up easier?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. You know how my audio gets sometimes.
Between my video and your audio, we're a good team.
Okay, let me try this.
And then maybe just one screen ahead.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you. That's perfect. As you know, we have consistently monitored the COVID metrics that are seen here. The daily new cases, the new cases per million, the new cases per 100,000, and the positivity rates. These are science-based indicators of risk level in our community to help guide our decision surrounding returning to in-person instruction. There's good news on two fronts. First, in Michigan and in Ingham County, we have seen improvements in these metrics over the past month. Although we are still in risk level E, which represents the highest risk level for COVID, our daily number of cases and the positivity rates have both had a downward trend over the past 2 weeks. Unfortunately, the numbers reflected here, as you can see in Ingham County, we're still averaging about 70 cases per day. That's 70 new cases per day. And when we extrapolate that to the million and the 100,000 numbers, we're at 246 in Ingham County per million. Our goal being less than 40. and we are still at 246. The new cases per 100,000, we're at 28.2, and our goal being less than 5 with a consideration for 5 to 9. So we still have a ways to go with those metrics, but we're moving in the right direction. It's important that we continue to monitor these metrics in preparation for return to in-person instruction. Although there are many factors being considered by the Beyond Screen to Screen Learning Group, these fundamental health data points must remain our guiding force for decision-making and evaluating risk for students and staff within the district. Now you're wondering, what is the second piece of good news? Well, the second piece of good news will be shared by Randy.
All right. Okay, so what we have for you tonight for our Did You Know is about COVID vaccine. It is becoming available now to our staff and teachers, and so we wanted to just give a little bit of basic information about the way that the vaccine was created and the way that it works. And we're getting a lot of questions about this from the staff, which is great. So, did you know that the COVID vaccine benefits outweigh the known risks of contracting COVID-19? Both the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines were created using the mRNA technology. This technology was discovered over 30 years ago and has been studied for the purpose of vaccine development for nearly 2 decades. COVID-19 mRNA vaccines provide instructions to our own cells to make a protein called a spike protein. This is the same protein found on the surface of a COVID-19 virus cell. The protein is made by the cell, and once the instructions are received, that is, once the vaccine is injected into the human muscle cell, and then the protein piece is displayed on the surface of the cell. Our immune system recognizes this as a rude outsider who is not welcome. Our immune system immediately begins making antibodies to fight this protein and break it down before it causes infection. The instructions are then destroyed by our immune system. After developing antibodies, our immune system uses memory cells that will recognize the spike protein and then protect us against future infection. mRNA vaccines do not use the live virus that causes COVID-19, nor do they interact with our DNA in any way. And the COVID-19 vaccine administration is currently recommended for people ages 16 and older. Sorry, I got behind on my slides. And then our tip of the month, we'd really just want you to ask your healthcare provider if the vaccine is right for you. And we want everyone to know that after you get the vaccine, we still have to be careful. We are out of the woods. We really need to see about 90% of the population vaccinated to achieve herd immunity, which is what will ultimately protect us from this virus. So after you get the vaccine, you should continue to follow all the CDC guidelines out there. Continue to wear a mask and social distance. Continue to wash hands several times a day and avoid crowds and indoor gatherings as much as possible. That's all.
I want to thank Sue and Randy. Mrs. Lawrence, I'll turn it back over to you if there's any questions from any of the board members.
Thank you. Thanks, Sue and Randy. Randy, it's good to see your face today. This might be a question for Sam. I was wondering if someone could talk a little bit about the vaccination plans that we have for staff.
I could do that, Sue, unless you.
Sure.
Okay. We are doing, we're working with the Ingham Intermediate School District in partnership with the Ingham County Health Department, in partnership with SETSEG in Michigan State. And through the ISD, they are providing vaccinations availability for all school employees in Ingham County. And they've tiered it in a 3-tier system, and we're in the 3rd tier. And we should be hearing something from the county level. What every staff member in our school district will receive is a link to the website to schedule an appointment. The appointments are all drive-through, and the drive-through takes place at the MSU Pavilion. So we would expect to have the first round of vaccines sometime in the first 2 weeks in February, and the second dose would be the number of days after that. Staff is not a requirement. Staff can also receive the vaccine through other places in the area, Sparrow Hospital and the like. But what we're trying to do through the ISD, and I really appreciate all the work that Jason Mellum and his staff have put in, just putting this all together, is that we would have that option and have it fairly quick.
And Sam, I would just throw in that they were hoping this would go a little quicker than it has, but there's been a bit of a delay in getting the vaccine itself. And until we have the vaccine in the state, they cannot distribute it to people, of course. So as that has improved and ramped up, we will see the vaccine distribution speed up some too.
Do we have any indication with regards to, are there members of our staff who are going to choose to not receive the vaccine?
We have not asked. It's not a requirement for employment, so it would just be, Sue may know a little bit, but I have no numbers at all on that.
Yeah, I don't have any numbers either, but I imagine there will be some staff who will choose not to do the vaccine, or there may be staff who are not eligible to get the vaccine based on just their personal characteristics or their health conditions. So there may be some staff who will not have the vaccine.
Okay. I'm going to go to Dr. Rodriguez and then Mr. Lopez and then Dr. Body. I thought I saw. Dr. Rodriguez, go ahead.
Thank you. One of the questions is already answered, but the other question is, if they take the second shot, the second opportunity, how many days the vaccine need to start working? It's going to take another 2 weeks before it start working, or it's doing right away?
There is some time that is required for the vaccine to be at its peak. It depends on each person individually, how soon your body reacts to the vaccine, but they estimate around 14 to 21 days before you would see the vaccine effectiveness.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, Sue, you mean after someone has received both doses of the vaccine, correct?
Correct.
And
yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, there's a 3-week waiting period between dose 1 and dose 2?
Correct.
Thank you. Dr. Lopez, is that, do you have more questions? I'm sorry, Dr. Rodriguez, do you have more questions?
Thank you. No, fine.
Okay. Mr. Lopez, I keep trying to promote you. Go ahead. Mr. Lopez, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now? All right. This data was collected, is it January 12th?
January 12th, yes.
Of 2021, right? Okay.
Yes.
So it's a week or so or more. What are the trends? You said they're going down, but do you have any kind of numbers?
I actually did look that up today in anticipation of that very question. And from the 12th to today, the numbers are really very similar. The trend is still downward, but rather than being at, it's gone down in the number of cases is about 68 versus 71. So, it's a modest change, but the trend is still trending downward.
Mm-hmm. So is it more than 200 now, or we're still in the 200?
I'm sorry, it's still more than 200, yes. And actually, Michigan as a whole is doing very well. You know, you hear on the national news about many of the states that are in a much more severe crisis than Michigan, particularly states that have large metropolitan areas. California, Texas, we're seeing much more, but Michigan is trending in the right direction, and things are looking positive, but still at a very high risk level.
And one question for Sam. Um, you said that teachers, it's a drive-through at MSU Pavilion, right? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So, so I've heard friends who have gotten the COVID vaccine already, and they're telling me that they keep them there for 10 to 15 minutes before they can leave. How is that accomplished in a drive-through? Do they have to wait on the car, or how is that going to happen?
Sam, I could probably answer that. I just saw this process yesterday. They bring in several rows of cars. I'd say be around 12 to 15 per row. Bring them in. The entire row receives the vaccine, and then the 15-minute waiting period occurs, and then the entire group is dismissed, and the next group brought in. It was really very smooth and very well done. And that 15 minutes is very important because one of the main side effects of the vaccine has been allergic reaction. So people are kept there to ensure that they're not experiencing an allergic reaction to the vaccine.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Lopez, Dr. Vod. Dr. Vod.
Thank you. Good evening. Respectfully, I would maybe want to clarify that allergic reactions are not one of the main side effects. It's just the biggest side effect that we worry about. The main side effects are pain at the injection site, fatigue, chills, and a little bit of elevated temperature. But the biggest, most worrisome side effect is allergic reactions, even though those are rare. But because of the potential, that's why we put people in observation to make sure that nobody develops an allergic reaction. My question is, actually, Gabe took my question, but then my suggestion is regarding the figuring out or surveying the teachers and staff to see how many of them are actually interested in getting it. I think that's really valuable information to know. Because if our teachers have a very high hit rate on getting the vaccine, that's something that we could advertise to the community and reassure parents that it's safe when kids do go back to school. And so if the district isn't making any plans to survey teachers and staff about their attitudes regarding the vaccine, I would respectfully submit that I think that would be valuable information to solicit from the teachers and staff. Thank you.
Let me respond just to Dr. Body. What I do know is I do not know the Lansing School District. I do know that throughout the ISD, there was a survey that was sent out by the ISD, and approximately 80 to 85% of all school employees were affirmative in wanting to get the vaccine. Like I said, I don't know Lansing in particular, but total.
And Sam, you mentioned earlier that we're in tier 3 of the tiered system.
Correct.
Can you just clarify why we're in tier 3?
We are in tier 3 along with Holt, Okemos, Waverly, and us. And we are the 4 schools that have the least face-to-face learning going on right now. And so they're in the middle of tier 2 right now. So which is why I said our staff will probably receive the link and can make an appointment starting sometime next week. The appointment would be for the following week.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes, for the superintendent. So if a teacher refuses to take the vaccine and parents are concerned that that the teacher didn't take the vaccine and not want to send their kids to that classroom. What kind of options are you looking at? Reassignment or, because, I think Dr. Body, his question was, if we have a large return of positive responses about the COVID vaccine, what about those who choose not to? And you said it's not required, but is there any way that we can gauge the danger to students? If
So
any.
just to clarify, and I just want staff members who might be listening to this conversation, I want to clarify that we will not be asking about anyone's vaccination status. If staff wants to volunteer that information to us, that would be fine. However, as the superintendent has stated, that's not a condition of employment. We are mindful of HIPAA, and we will not be asking anyone about their vaccination status, and nor will that information be made available to families. Sam, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Good news travels fast, and whether we ask for it or not, we're gonna find out, I'm sure. And so, what's our?
Even if we do find out, we will not be taking any action with any information about somebody's vaccination status.
Well, I still think we need to have some sort of.
Well, there are laws in place to protect people's rights, so we cannot ask about anyone's vaccination status.
And I'm talking about really the public issue,
Okay, Sam, do you want to add anything? You don't have to. You don't have to.
Well, I guess I would add that I did want to respond to one question that Mr. Lopez has, whether a staff member takes the vaccine or not, and it would not affect their employment or their placement. My question is, how are we going to know? Because Mrs. Lawrence is correct. We're not going to ask.
Yeah. But those things tend to come up, and then, you're going to have to take some action somehow. I mean, at least to.
We will not be taking any action.
I'm not against the employee, ma'am, but in terms of response to whoever files a complaint, if there's a complaint or.
Mr. Lopez, no one can file a complaint against someone's medical status.
I understand all of that. I'm just thinking about the public reaction to something that's out there. That's all.
Okay. Any further questions related to this topic from board members? Thank you very, very much for being with us this evening, Sue and Randy. And we look forward to hopefully getting more downward trending demographics the next time we see you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, our next presentation for this evening is bilingual education update. Our friend, Mr. Sergio Keck.
Take it away, Sergio.
Okay, can you see this?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, Board of Education and the Lansing community. The purpose of this presentation is twofold: to highlight all the work that has been done to support the English learner population, and to support the district's effort to lift forward the critical work of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, as you can see, you will notice each icon in different slides of the presentation. And our definition of equity is ensuring students have access to what they need to succeed. We have 2,045 bilingual students in the district, including GSRP and adult education. Bilingual students are defined as students with a home language other than English. Of the 2,045 bilingual students, 1,695 are English learners, which are students who are in the process of developing English proficiency. There are 62 languages spoken in the district other than English. You can see the top 15 languages at the bottom and then the remaining ones at the top. Our students come from 85 countries around the world. The map in the background has been designed to represent just the countries where our students and families come from. So as you can see, the Lansing School District still has a very big world. Once again, top 15 countries at the top and the remaining countries at the bottom. Our bilingual instructional assistants provide supplemental support to English learners by helping students with their daily assignments and acclimating them to the educational system of the United States. Assistants receive direction from teachers as well as support for language and cultural gaps. We also have cultural brokers who are contracted members of the community who provide translations and interpretations services on an as-needed basis. Bilingual assistants continue to receive tailored professional development from the Bilingual Education Department in the district, and this has been essential during the screen-to-screen learning to help better support our ELs as they learn from home. We communicate with our families in different languages: Arabic, Burmese, Farsi, Kinyarwanda, Nepali, Somali, Spanish, Swahili, and Vietnamese. 759 families received emails in one of the 9 languages other than English. Over 1,000 phone calls were made by bilingual assistants to households. 3,395 robocalls were made in other languages other than English, and 15 videos were created in languages other than English. Some of these videos include recruiting kids for preschools, tips for learning at home, and how to stay safe. We also translate critical documents into 7 languages. And we held a parent university workshop in Spanish. The bilingual department has also a licensed social worker employed as the English learner trauma support specialist. And this person has served over 116 students, has had direct communication with parents and caregivers. She also holds 6 different student groups during the week, and she participates in 9 ESL classrooms during the week. The function of the staff member, Ms. Nikki Finch, is to develop wraparound support to our most needy ELs. And she collaborates with teachers, parents, counselors, MSU tutors, community partners, Ingham Health Department, and many other people. Another way of communicating with our families is through our Bilingual Education Facebook page and a newly created YouTube channel. Documents and videos that have been translated by the department are all shared on the Facebook page. We've had 269 likes, 275 followers, over 190 posts, 16,000 people has reached at least once the page, and over 2,000 people have been engaged in the page. In this slide, you will see a resource for English learner students created for a screen-to-screen after-school tutoring program. In addition to helping our ELs, we hope this model might be helpful to other district staff who are interested in building programs for the larger district population. This prospect is exciting to us because we know when we focus on equity for one population, all populations can be served and lifted forward in the process. Focusing on equity can help all students. So the after-school tutoring program for the spring will be 100% online using Google applications like Google Classroom. Students will be invited to participate by sending a link to the tutoring website where they can enroll and choose a tutoring topic. Bilingual assistants will teach Google Classrooms by being available to support students during A-Day and after school. Each subject has 1 to 5 bilingual assistants assigned to it. Teachers and parents will be informed of tutoring opportunities through direct emails. Additionally, the enrollment form will be posted in social media, and teachers can refer a student for tutoring via the tutoring website or by completing a Google referral form. So overall, the online after-school tutoring program has been created for a student, a teacher, or a parent to refer someone for extra support. The final slide represents a network of staff. It was going to be an organizational chart, but this looks more like a network. And services the work that together we do to ensure our diverse populations in the Lansing School District are receiving equitable and inclusive support to work towards academic progress. For us, success is to sustain the connection between our students, their families, and the school district during the screen-to-screen learning, and also as we transition back to face-to-face learning. The relationships strengthened by the communication between bilingual assistants and families during this time will continue to grow and see a greater trust in the support provided by the district to their families and community. Finally, I want to thank you for your time and for all the support and resources the Board of Education has provided throughout the years to our EL population. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Keck. Any questions from board members? Mr. Lopez? Mr. Lopez, did you have a question? Can't hear you.
You're muted.
Okay.
There we go.
I was just saying, good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Burrows?
I don't have a question. I just think it's amazing how many students that we have from other countries, other languages. For a community this size, I just think we should be really incredibly proud of, that we're able to do this, and it makes Lansing really distinct. So every time I hear this number, I'm surprised all over again because it's just so exceptional. So thank you for all the great work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Burrows. Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you very much, Mr. Superintendent and the team. I think that what we do for one of these students, we are doing for everybody. And that is very, very important. The other thing is that we had to create that culture inside of the schools, the principals, the teachers, the counselors, that everybody understand that they are receiving all kinds of the students when they go back to classes or when they teach them. I think that is important, and giving us this presentation tonight, you know, we are discovering so many things about Lansing School District. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Rodriguez. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, thank you, Mr. Keck.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next item this evening is our report from Superintendent.
Thank you, President Lawrence, and thank you for the presentations. Sue and Randy, thank you so much. And Sergio, fantastic as always. My report is actually going to be very short tonight because we're doing the Did You Knows, and this is sort of like the pilot for a TV series. So we'll let you know how it goes. Tomorrow is the end of the first semester. We can count our blessings for the most part, even with all the uncertainty. Things went as well as we could hope. I want to thank the community, staff, students, and families, and the Board of Education for their support and the resilience shown. I want to share some good news today. We have had 49 students enroll or re-enroll for the second semester in the past couple of weeks. So we're very excited about that. It's split up. There were some from out of the country, some from out of the state, some from charter schools, some from public school districts around here. And a couple of them were just enrolling for the first time this year. So I felt very good about that. And I'm just going to say this. I've already said it tonight. We have entered into a partnership with the Ingham Intermediate School District and the Ingham County Health Department to provide vaccinations for all interested staff. The first round of vaccinations will take place in the first few weeks of February. The executive team has been planning the next few months out and come up with some catchy slogans that will give us important direction on the next steps for the next 6 to 8 months and beyond. And now for the Did You Knows. Dr. Chapman is leading off tonight.
Thank you, Superintendent Sinacropi, and good evening, Board of Education and Lansing School District family. Did you know that the executive team has developed a 6-strategy model designed to impact student achievement for the next 6 months, January through June of 2021, through a collaborative effort between the instructional and operational divisions, along with school-level community and business stakeholders. The model will provide culturally responsive teaching and learning, provide a safe environment for teaching and learning, provide social, emotional, and mental health support to optimize learning, provide academic support targeting grade levels and specified needs. This model will also prepare us for the new normal, as well as preserve fund balance based on budget projections for fiscal year 2022. The model has been branded by the executive team, Equip with 6, a short-term strategy for long-term impact. And now my team members will share the highlights of each of those 6 strategies.
Am I supposed to call on somebody or is it just somebody's ready?
I can go.
Okay.
Good evening. Did you know that in order to continue our culturally responsive objective, we will be incorporating the STAR grant, our Mazzano evaluation tool, and our equity audit as supports for growth? Thank you.
Next.
Good evening. Did you know as we continue to develop academic supports targeting grade levels and the specific needs of our students that we are focused on several targeted initiatives? We are developing programs to support our English learners through an after-school tutoring program, designing a robust summer learning program for students K-12, expanding the use of our early warning systems to support struggling students pre-K-12, and working to redesign our instructional systems for educational equity across the board. As we continue this work, I look forward to sharing additional updates. Thank you.
Good evening. In order to provide a safe environment for teaching and learning, the Lansing School District, in partnership with Sodexo Magic, will be installing ultraviolet light systems that will purify and filter the air in our schools. This includes adding equipment to central air ventilation systems where available and individual units installed in over 600 classrooms. We'll also be adding 8 ultraviolet disinfecting units, so we'll be able to disinfect an entire classroom in one night and 2 vehicles to transport this equipment between schools.
Good evening. Did you know social, emotional, and mental health supports positively affect learning? In the effort of providing culturally responsive supports, we will enhance our implementation of CRPBIS, introduce evidence-based practices, improve multi-tiered systems of support, and provide professional learning in subjects such as social emotional learning, crisis intervention, restorative practices, therapeutic counseling, and drug and alcohol abuse prevention. Thank you.
Good evening again. As we prepare for the new normal, the administrative team has created the following initiatives and or committees. 1, beyond screen to screen. 2, redesigning instructional systems for educational equity. 3, pandemic positives. 4, instructional process and operations review protocol. All these efforts will guide our school district to successfully open our schools for our children to have an opportunity to participate in an effective face-to-face instructional model. Thank you.
Good evening. Did you know that part of our Equip for 6 is preserving the fund balance to maintain financial stability? In order to achieve this, the school district will be looking closely at our budgets and our staffing levels, seeking supplemental funding sources such as grants, and performing program evaluations to maximize our return on investment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I can tell you, the board and the public, you will be hearing more about this as the months progress. We will probably be doing a little longer presentation sometime in February. We're very excited about this process, and we're trying to help us get prepared for, as was said earlier, the new normal. So that concludes our report tonight, President Lawrence.
Thank you, Superintendent Sinacropi. Mr. Lopez, do you have a question?
Yes, just a quick question. Mr. Superintendent, on your Friday meetings with staff, during the Friday meetings with staff, when you share this executive initiatives, do you get some feedback from them in terms of how they're going to work with it, or how long does it take to get that to them, and how they receive it, and the feedback to you as the superintendent?
Well, here is the plan for this particular project, this particular objective, and that is, this was presented to at our administrative staff meeting on Tuesday morning. And on Tuesday at noon, I met with all of the union leadership team, presidents and so on, and we went over pretty much what was done here today, a little more in depth. On Friday during the Zoom meeting, I'm going to be presenting it again. And we have a letter and an infographic that will be going out to all staff Friday or Monday. So we'll be talking about Friday. I'll be talking about Friday at the Zoom staff meeting, and then this infographic will go out afterwards. It's not as involved as the PowerPoint that we will probably have parts of that PowerPoint for board review, for board presentation sometime in February. So that's typically we communicate in lots of different ways. How do I hear about it? Well, we have extensive chat that comes out of Friday's meetings, which aren't just teachers. There's teachers, secretaries, there's a whole bunch of different groups that are there. And believe you me, they don't mind asking questions or giving their opinion. I want to thank members of the executive team, Delsa and Kamala, and others who have been on there, because I will notice chat going across and I'll try to answer it. And before I've answered it, Delsa and Kamala have already responded, or someone else has responded to them. And I really appreciate that. we've been having larger numbers. We had about, I think, 250 last week, and last Friday and the Friday before that, we had over 400 staff on. So we're getting we're getting out to a large percentage of our staff. We also make a recording of each of those meetings. It's also sent to staff if anyone wants to listen or wants to hear part of it that they missed or whatever. Informally, we do, this will be part of instructional council meetings. This will be part of other meetings that we have with staff. Just because this is what we are looking at as an executive team for us moving forward to move the school district forward.
Thank you. It's good to hear, how this initiatives get to staff where they're really going to be implemented, So thank you very much.
Welcome.
On to routine matters and old business for this evening. First up are our committee reports.
President,
Dr. Rodriguez.
I raised my hand, but anyway, thank you. I know I don't have a question, but more than to wait. A few days ago, I was very much concerned about how the students are going to come back to the schools and how much they are going to need to learn and how much they forgot. But the last few days, I am really concerned about their emotional and social situations, how they are going to come back. In any of these teams, are you study how to prepare our schools for the social and emotional situation that we are going to find in our students?
We have, yes, and the answer is yes. We have one area that looks in particular at social emotional supports. We also is going to be interspersed throughout all of these things. How we work with students who've been out of the education that they're used to for, it'll be a year in March. So there's lots of preparation that'll have to happen. There's lots of preparation for staff that's going to have to happen.
Please go ahead. Other than that, that is the report for the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Any questions for Mr. Lopez? Okay, we're coming right back to Mr. Lopez for Promise Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam President, I'm going to have to learn that. Madam
It's
President.
okay, it doesn't matter.
I could say Madam Vice President, but President's, yeah.
I'll take
Okay.
it.
Today's meeting of the Promise Board was very interesting. Let me give you some highlights. It was reported that we have exceeded actually. Where's my numbers? Hold on, just 1 second. I told you that at the last meeting that we received over $600,000 in tax capture, 684 to be exact. That's our tax capture for this year, which is really great. It's going to help us a lot. Also, we reported on a clean audit. We are in good financial health. We hope to keep it that way. We have to date, the Promise has had 1,400 students approved and given scholarships to. which equates to about $3 million in scholarships that have been handed out. This year, there were 360 students who were eligible for the promise. And out of that, we have 178 that were approved, and others will go elsewhere, but at least 178 were promised students. We have about 313 students who are eligible for promise, but did not take it the first year that they were eligible, but they're still within the eligibility period, so they can come back and use those funds. So that was and they're working. Justin is working on some ways to work with them and see how best we can help them. The things that are going to be happening in terms of promise, things that we're doing, is that we have initiated a promise hub, and it is an app to help students connect with business, with other students, and so that they can have sort of, maybe not mentors necessarily, but they can connect with community and get help in sorting out their what they want to do. The other thing is that there's initiated a storytelling project, and this is color highlights and untold stories of their journeys from, students in the school district and their successes and struggles. So that's going to be a great thing. There's a podcast coming online, and that and this is in order to build community and helping them, to make more meaningful community connections. And this will go live in February. Okay. Things that are coming up, events. Again, the podcast launches in February. Love Lansing Teachers, hashtag Love Lansing Teachers campaign is going to be again in February. In March, we have Reading Month, and Lansing Reads presentation to RIF. And Lansing Reads, which was a offshoot or part of the promise, raised enough, exceeded their goal of $50,000. So they're going to be able to help RIF, not only with books and other things, but also with audio tapes that volunteers have read, and they're available for students to listen to. August and September, we have, well, in August, there's the Promise Golf Classic that's being worked on. I have here, it's 4th of August. It may change, but right now that's my note. The other thing is that this is, I'll have to mention Terry Bernetto that works very closely with the Promise. They're working on Welcome Back Party for August and September. And this party will also include the Greater Lansing Balloon Fest, the Promise documentary, which will premiere also in the fall of 2021. And the Hope Promise Dinner, which is not a dinner as we've had before, but this is going to be used as a training workshop or a workshop for seniors. And this is going to be on February the 17th. And we're going to deliver, when I say we, Promise volunteers. So if you're willing, there's room for you to deliver meals to the seniors and their families on February the 17th. After they receive the meals, then students will log on into this for this workshop. So there's a lot of things happening. I just want to give you a couple of highlights. And one that continues to be mentioned is that Lansing Promise students continue to do well in their persistent rate at Michigan State University. So that's really nice to hear. And And again, Terry works with all these people, so I want to say thank you for Terry Venero for the work she does with the promise and keeping our students focused on applying for that scholarship, at the time that they're eligible for. So that is what I have, Madam Chair. If Dr. Rodriguez has anything to add, please go ahead, Doctor. Otherwise, that would be my report.
Thank you, Guillermo. Thank you, Madam President. I cannot talk until you let me.
Go ahead, Dr. Rodriguez.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Lopez. That was it was a long meeting. It was more than 2 hours meeting. And there were more than 24 people present. And really people present were from Michigan State, from Lansing Community College, for almost all credit unions, especially emphasize the work the Michigan State Federal Credit Union is doing, particularly with Lansing School District students. They were the different companies and really Guillermo asked for a presentation to the board. I think I asked him for a presentation to the board in February and a regular board meeting. We don't need a lot of time, maybe Mr. Dean and Justin come for a presentation of 10 minutes, especially to relate it to Lansing School District students. The other thing we talk is about to continue giving 3 more years of contract to Justin because all the work that he's doing, I think this is fantastic. One more time, Mrs. Bernero was there and definitely her work is so important for the district. May, we will have the Promise Pledge ceremonies for grades 6 and 7. And also June, we will have the Lansing graduation party. Then that is, I think, all I have, but also we dedicate a lot of time and vision and mission of the promise. Then was a long meeting, but I think that we had to take from the promise and work with them and how we are going to promote our students, not only when they graduate, but from kindergarten to the 12th grade. Thank you, Madam President.
Madam President, just one other item that's of interest to all of us, I think. The Promise is still working to set up the Jack and Susan Davis Legacy Fund. So they will, more to come, but that's another thing that's in progress.
Great.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, gentlemen. Moving on to Equity Committee, Mrs. Willis. Michaela, tell us.
And I would have Michaela give the report. And just, I'm trying to give her a lot of credit. I'm on like hour 11 of working with her, having to self-enter. She's actually doing really good. The Equity Committee met last week, and I will tell you, it was a great meeting. We had a chance to interview our top 2 firms, and it was really exciting to have a chance to talk through some things we really want to know of the firms we'll be able to bring to the table. So it was a great meeting, I would say. And so I am in the process of collecting references, which is our final step to help us narrow down our firm recommendation. I will tell you, by consensus, seem to have one firm we were leaning towards, but we really want to do our due diligence because this is a task that we're asking the firm to undertake. And so we want to make sure we are making a thorough investigation of the firms before we make our recommendation. So our next equity committee meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. So we're hoping to have a firm to recommend all in the beginning of February. So please stay tuned.
Thank you, Mrs. Willis. Any questions for Mrs. Willis?
And I would certainly welcome Dr. Burrows or Dr. Chapman to add anything if I missed anything as an update.
All righty, then we will move on to our consent agenda for this evening. Our consent agenda for this evening includes the approval of the January 7th annual organizational and regular meeting minutes, the receipt and approval of the treasurer's report for the month of December, and bid recommendations for North Elementary Phase 3 interior upgrades, Wexford Montessori upgrades, Atwood Elementary electrical service upgrades, and Group 5 furniture recommendation. May I have a motion?
Madam President,
Dr. Rodriguez.
I recommend that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda as presented by the President.
Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Rodriguez, supported by Dr. Body. Any questions or discussion regarding consent agenda items? Dr. Burrows?
Do I present the treasurer's report now?
Sure.
All right. Good evening. The detailed report is included in tonight's agenda. A couple of highlights. The beginning cash and investment balance was about $24 million. Receipts were $12 million, while disbursements were about 14. The ending general fund cash and investment balance as of December 31st was 23 million. That was about 5 million higher as compared to the same time last year. We received several donations during the month of December from the Office of Public Safety for purposes of the Homeless Fort Project Santa, and Capital Area United Way gave two donations, one for RIF and one for Ebersol. And we received a donation from the distinguished Brian Beverly for the Lansing Promise. So thank you, everybody, for all of your donations to the district. We greatly appreciate your support. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Burrows. Any further questions or discussion on consent agenda? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Dr. Body?
Yes.
Dr. Burrows?
Yes.
Ms. Hodgen? Mrs. Lawrence?
Yes.
Ms. Lilji?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mrs. Moore?
Yes.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Yes, yes, yes.
Mrs. Willis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Dr. Rodriguez really meant it. We have no action items this evening. We have no new business or discussion items. We do have a report from Secretary, Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. Tomorrow, Friday, January 22nd, end of the first semester. Half day, all grades. Planning and Records Day. Monday, January 25th, 2021, Parents University. What is a special education mediation? Time, 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Cost free. See Lansing School District website to sign up. Wednesday, January 27th, 2021, Parents University, Cyberbullying and Technology Safety. Time 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Location to be decided. Check Lansing School District for updates and to sign up. Cost free. Thursday, February 4, 2021, Virtual Lansing School District Regular Board Meeting. Time 6 p.m. The link for the meeting will be listed in the Lansing School District website, and I am sure the secretary will take care with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Any other comments or questions from board members this evening? Ms. Lilji.
Thank you, Madam President. This is for Superintendent Sinacropi and executive team, anybody who can help me understand what to expect. You know, as community members and parents, I think we're hearing a lot of things and seeing a lot of things. You know, we read that the
governor really wants us to be back in person by March 1st. We see, you know, other districts going back in person, and we hear that the metrics do not support going back in person to our standards. We filled out a survey this week to indicate what we might be interested in terms of remaining virtual or coming back in person. So I guess my question is, can you help us know what we're looking at in terms of, I know you can't really give us a date about when we might come back, but I'm going to ask anyway. Like, when might that happen, and what will it look like? Are we looking at hybrid model, about, you know, half the kids in the building at a time? Like, can you help us understand what we're looking at?
Well, as you said, we did send out a survey this week to survey to families and a survey to staff. And we asked a couple of short questions to gauge where everyone's thoughts are. So we're going to be reviewing those responses. The surveys ended last night, so we need to look at that, analyze it, and make some decisions from that. By make some decisions, I mean, depending on how many families chose which area, then we need to look at how that works. We need to look at where those students are at, what grades they're in, what schools they attend, and all the things that go along with that. And then we got to go over to the staff side and do pretty much the same thing. We have to look at staff who wants to stay in remote learning, and we have to have staff that want to look at what a hybrid model might look like. And then we try to match up that, so the staff members, if they're a 7th grade science teacher, we got to make sure that they have 7th grade science classes and enough students to have them in a hybrid model. The hybrid model is not chosen yet. I know that created some angst among staff members and parents, because we didn't have that down. But we need to seriously wait and see what this all looks like, what people preferences are, what grade level they're in, what part of the city they're in, if they need transportation, which was one of the questions. So looking at all those things, is there a date in mind? I would say this: if you look closely at what the governor said, the governor made a recommendation that all schools be back by March 1st in some form of in-person learning. It is a recommendation, but we also have decided in December, we had some metrics that we were going to follow as a school district. So all along, we have talked, and I know I have talked, that it depends on this. We look at the safety and health of our students and staff. And we also look at now, since the vaccinations are going, how soon can we get our staff vaccinated? And students, well, you have to be at least 16 to get the vaccine. So not a lot of students involved in that. So all those things we're going to look at. You're asking for a date. I'd like it to be March 1st. I don't know right now. That's my best answer. And I can tell you that I know Ms. Black does, but I'm going to be working with Sue Wheeler closely. I'm probably going to call her up every day. Okay, what are the metrics today? Because I think we need to know. We're going to start following that. We will have a presentation. It's going to be short. I'd hesitate to call it formal, on the 4th of February. And what I would like to do is just to come in, have the nurses just talk very briefly. Here are the metrics. So you have those metrics every week, just like we do. And when we feel safe and comfortable, when we have the vaccinations taken care of, when we have our sanitizing standards set where they need to be, when we have the equipment we need, then we can look at beginning a hybrid model. We have the Beyond Screen to Screen Committee has reviewed several of those models, and I think after they get the chance to look at what the survey says, then we can look at which model we choose, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lopez?
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Superintendent, as you discuss this, are you looking maybe that, or considering starting with the lower L's, bringing them more so quicker than the higher L's and then secondary students?
I'll
Because
answer that this
from what
way.
just a comment. Every comment I've had from parents is from kids that are young, and that by this time they're just very restless on the computer, and they're not learning anymore, and parents are really having a hard time on that. So, if there are safer students in terms of COVID, stuff like that. I mean, that could be a way.
We are looking at all possibilities. I guess I'd say it that way.
Yeah.
And nothing's been ruled out. And we'll do when the time comes. We'll come with a recommendation that we feel is in the best interest of all of our students in the school district and staff.
Thank you.
Mrs. Willis?
Thank you. I just want to clarify with the superintendent that the Board of Education will still ultimately be responsible in approving any adjustments to our current learning plan. Is that correct? And then are we still going to be required to follow the same schedule of every 30 days reviewing and assessing the learning plan to make sure that if whatever changes we make are in good? Okay.
Yes, it is. You're absolutely right. It is. We would come with a recommendation. We would come with a recommendation to change our learning plan. And so the board has to approve that change, whatever that is.
Okay, thank you.
Or not approve that change.
Body?
Thank you. Sort of to piggyback off of Mr. Lopez, from a medical perspective, when the district is ready to start having the conversation, and I'm not pushing you to have the conversation now, but whenever the time comes that we're ready, I think that what's most consistent with the science is the elementary grade levels going back first, because the transmission rates are known to be lower in those age children. And so that's what I would advocate for first, is focusing on elementary schools and having that be like our plan A, and then plan B and C could be secondary schools like middle and high school. So I imagine you guys have already thought about that, but just for me to overtly put that out there, that I think that would be the way to do it, as a phased approach, a phased in approach where we start with elementary. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Body. Dr. Burrows?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say very quickly for anybody listening, and just for the general audience as well as the people here, that the governor is the governor of the whole state, and this is a very large, diverse state with a lot of different communities in a lot of different parts of the states with very different health and demographic concerns. And so what's going to work in northern Michigan or western Michigan or Detroit isn't necessarily going to work here. So the decision that we're going to make is going to be based upon the local need of our student population and our staff. And people need to be patient, because we're going to look at the math, we're going to look at the numbers, and that's how we're going to make our decision. So everybody needs to take a deep, calming breath, because personally, I think the country, not just the state, is going to have to do a lot more than it's doing right now to get us in a position for all of the students to be able to go back to school in the next 6 weeks. Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Burrows. Any other comments from board members? Okay. Thank you for a nice, smooth meeting in our new America. At 7:21, we are adjourned.
Bye, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good evening.
Good night.
Night.